All right, ready for another great episode of
Beach
the Beach Brothers.
Brothers.
And I think we're also doing Get On Code as well. So let's get it, Beachies. So look, the Beach Brothers Show is a show where we deal with Virginia business and politics.
Well, I'm Conrad Chesner. I'm a Hampton West political activist. Best ideas for community improvement happen to drive me.
I help folks that are approaching retirement and in their retirement years.
I have what I call the empowerment agenda. And that means that everything I do is focused on empowerment. You want to give a salute to Tally and Twine. It's time for you to have a high quality watch made in Virginia, made in Portsmouth, Virginia, from Tally and Twine. We want to say thanks to Southern Volkswagen Greenbrier for their great level of sponsorship. If you need a new car, you don't need to go far. Southern Volkswagen Greenbrier. And ladies, if you want your brows to say, wow, check out IamLitaWee.com. Microblading by IamLitaWee.com. I'm Seiko Varner. I do credit fixes, tax resolutions. I lend private money to real estate investors, and we do debt consolidations. If you need any of these services, contact me as provided. And now it's time to get beachy on the Beach Brothers Show. Yeah, time to get beachy. What up, beachies?
Conrad. A lot of people are going to start saying that when we just walk around town. People go, "Man, what's up, Beachy?"
I hope so. Well, it's time for another great episode of Beach Brothers Show. Also, Get On Code. I think I'm popping this one on the Get On Code podcast as well because I'm really impressed with today's guest. But before we go there, why don't we talk about things that are happening? You know, let's get on our platforms, our podium, our soapboxes, and chat a little bit.
Shall we lead off tonight?
Sounds good. What I want to lead off tonight on is something that's been bothering me for a few days. So with one of the groups that I work with, we're working on having a conversation, a stream conversation. It'll be coming to you soon, dealing with citizen review panels for police departments. So for the city of Virginia Beach, where I live, you know, we have a independent review panel, IRP. It's pretty much a few people who work in tandem with the police system that kind of look over some of the things that have happened to make sure everything's up to snuff. Well, we're saying, hey, we need to have a citizen review panel where some of the citizens get a chance to look over things. And there's a process called investigation and subpoena where you can actually go a little heavier and dig deeper when something just doesn't look right. And as we're preparing for this discussion, I keep getting people sidelined. Well, people keep trying to sideline the discussion. Oh, you know what? I think we should always have oversight. Oversight's a good thing. But you know what? The community needs to really do this, da. And I'm like, hey, conversation is about developing a CRP with investigatory and subpoena powers. We're not talking about the community. We're not talking about, well, you know what really needs to happen before we do that? No. We're talking about developing a great process to make sure that our oversight is really effective. If there are bad apples, when we have the best training and the best people in uniform, if there's some bad apples, one of the ways you prevent bad apples from festering or being around is having some levels of oversight. So we're not dealing with the community. Well, you know what? You know, the Bible says before you try to pull out the thimble in your neighbor's eye, pull the one out of your eye. So we shouldn't do anything to the community. No. You're misinterpreting. My interpretation, of course, lean not into my interpretation, you know, by no means. But make sure you can see well. So when you try to help your partner, your neighbor, you can see pretty well. You know, if something's in your eye, take it out so you can see pretty well, so you can really be effective. Okay, if that's the case, It's not saying that you can't manage, you can't multitask when you're solving problems that occur in the community. Look, if we have a woman who is abusing drugs and is destroying her body, and she's also in a physically abusive relationship, we shouldn't say, until you get clean, you can't even deal with that abusive relationship. We can't say that. We can't say you got to deal with stuff on the outside before you deal with stuff on the inside. No, you should deal with it all. If you're in an abusive relationship, you need to leave. If you're in abusing drugs, you need to stop. Those things can happen at the very same time. And too many of us allow ourselves to get sidelined by looking at things that are outside or not even part of the conversation. So my point to you is, don't allow others to sideline your agenda. We're working to get on code. And working to get on code means we're going to have to be focused on things that are impacting us. We have people saying silly stuff like, well, whenever this happens in the community, nobody gets upset. Yes, they do. It just doesn't make the national news. But yeah, it's been happening. There are thousands of organizations that work to end the issues that are in the community. So don't you dare say that nobody gets upset. That's a lie. You haven't done the research, and you're demeaning and you're demoralizing people who are actually trying to make change in the community. Shame on you. I guess I'm turning into Donkey of the Day. My point is, don't allow yourself to get sidetracked. When you're focused on something, don't worry about the other negative challenges that are around you. Because if you stay focused, you'll solve at least one of the problems. And if you change one thing, other things will change. If you change one thing, everything else has to change. So don't allow yourself to be sidelined, because we're not going to allow ourselves to be sidelined. Different situations are different situations. You can multitask. You may not do the best job of it, but you can multitask. So stay focused and stay on code. And good brother, looks like we have a couple of comments. Speak truth. Hopefully I spoke truth to power. All right, I'll do that. Good brother, it's your turn, man. Let's see what lovely things you have to say on your podium.
This past Saturday, Virginia's minimum wage jumped to $9.50 per hour. And it had been at $7.25, which, is the national level. Delegate Rip Sullivan, Virginia's House Democratic Caucus chairman, has pushed for this for a while, but admits someone could be working a 40-hour minimum wage and still be well beneath the poverty line. And it's true. These days we have complainers about inability to fill many positions because people make more money on unemployment. So then they assign more hate to Democrats and unemployment insurance as a general concept. They should assign more score toward employers who refuse to pay sufficiently to be worth the labor that they ask for. Many have spent years complaining burger flippers should be teenagers anyway, and if they want living wages, go get themselves better jobs. Now those fast food joints have large "we're hiring" signs, and some places close, like Mary's at the oceanfront did, and AJ Gators in Aragona when Sundays roll by because they're short-staffed. I think we spent too long with some misconceptions. How many times have you been looking for better paying jobs and people tell you to pick up a skill, as if you, me, and others are part of a skills deficient subgroup? I like to see you try to balance 5 phone calls at once while performing an hour's worth of data entry within 10 minutes, stopping to deal with people coming to your desk, commanding your attention, and come out of it thinking you're somehow unskilled if you still succeed in doing that. Friends, we're all skilled. None of this is unskilled work. It's merely low-wage work. We spent a lot of time talking about capitalism. You hear it on shows like Hannity and in some political ads for some Republicans that we need free markets and capitalism. We need to remind many individuals that people like you and me aren't necessarily capitalists. We're salaried or waged employees, most often low salary and low wages. The owners of our jobs, those are the capitalists. See, people like you and me, we like to buy things. That's consumerism. We're consumers. And consumerism exists everywhere, even in the places many Republicans call socialist hellholes. Many people like to swear that they're capitalists, but they're in debt just like us. And the only things that they really own are the Taco Bell they just bought or the Amazon order they just received at their door. But the people who have power to repossess your car or your house or evict you from something like an apartment, they're the real capitalists. We're just consumers made to somehow be against each other because some of our friends no longer like the idea of doing an hour of depressing labor at $9.50. I say let employers up their asking price for wages, and that's my podium.
Interesting. For the record, I am a capitalist. For the record, and I love what you said, good brother. So look, we have a sister coming on in just a moment that I'm really impressed with. The more I watch and learn about her, the more impressed I get. So, good brother, why don't you do the great honor of bringing on our guest?
Well, the Beach Brothers ventured out to Florida last week, and we spoke with Coral Springs Commissioner Nancy Mediger. We're going to the Midwest tonight, specifically to the rubber capital of the world, Akron, Ohio. Our guest is Akron's Ward 5 City Councilwoman, Tara Mosley Samples. Councilwoman Samples has repped Ward 5 since 2014. She's outspoken on a slew of community issues like homelessness and those suffering from addiction, mental health issues, and gun violence. She was active and efficient as early as her first term in office. She's previously run for Lieutenant Governor of Ohio. She served on numerous committees and boards, was a delegate for Obama in 2012 and Sanders in his attempts to run for the White House. And she's currently the political director for Nina Turner for Congress 2021. So Councilwoman Samples, thank you so much for coming on and welcome to the Beach Brothers Show. How's your evening?
Well, good evening, and thank you for having me. My evening is wonderful, and this is the way to end the day, right here with the Beach Brothers Show.
That's what's up. Before we get a chance to chat with you a little bit, I want to take a moment and tell people and let people see why I'm so impressed with you. Let me show people why I'm so impressed with you.
Tara Mosley Samples is an Akron councilwoman who's been serving the city for 7 years.
Representing Ward 5, the ward that I've been born, raised, and grew up in.
Despite working at her dream job, Samples says she's dealt with unwanted comments due to her hair throughout her career.
I changed my hair a lot. There's times where I would wear braids, maybe wear a weave. I've cut my hair off. I've dyed my hair, and there's been times where I've had colleagues say to me, "I didn't even know that was you. You change your hair so much, or are you keeping your hair like that?"
What concerns Samples is not curiosity, but discrimination due to a hairstyle.
To make sure that those people who are in the workplace don't feel like they're being discriminated against because of their hair. Making sure not just me, but other people, whether they look like me or not, if they want to wear their hair curly or straight, or want to have it in its natural state like mine is right now, and not feel like they're going to be targeted at work or even terminated at work.
Akron City Council recently passed legislation making hair discrimination illegal. The legislation, also known as the Crown Act, was presented by Samples almost a year ago.
Say if they fire you or tell you need to change your hair color. It's like telling someone they need to, change their color of their skin. Maybe this is something that's near and dear to them. They now will have the opportunity here in our city to go to our Akron Civil Rights Commission and file complaints stating that they feel like they were discriminated against because of the style of their hair or the natural state of their hair.
According to the official National Crown Act campaign, CROWN stands for Create a Respectful and Open World for Natural Hair. Samples hopes that other cities throughout the state will adopt the Crown Act. For Spectrum News, I'm Kristen Anzolini.
Yo, that's dope. That's dope. That's interesting. That's interesting. And that's back in Ohio. So OH. That's what's up. That's what's up. All right. So for those who don't know, I grew up in Columbus, Ohio. First, I was born in Brooklyn. Brooklyn is a blood type. And I always say I love my beautiful planet of Columbus, Ohio. Columbus, Ohio is a planet. So OHIO to Akron as well. Hey, I'm really impressed by that. You fought for the ability of people to present themselves in a natural manner, not in a fake manner. So
Right.
in some ways, we don't have to wear the mask that lies anymore. You know, when it comes to some of our hairs, that's dope. The ancestors are really impressed with you, sis. Thank you.
I appreciate that. I really do. And, you know, I think it's important for us to embrace who we are and be okay with that. You know, it to me, I think is a long time coming. And instead of feeling like you have to assimilate into a society or into, I don't know, a place of employment, you're now free to just be who you are and work freely in Akron and not feel as if you're going to be discriminated against or terminated. And, you know, it's one step, but we got a long way to go still.
I want to bring in just a slight bit of levity here. I noticed looking on your Facebook that you like the Steelers, which is weird as you're about. Our friend Susan Hibbett won't like that. She's a big Browns fan. I also see you like Hendrick Motorsports. I'm curious, what's your driver?
I can't remember the kid's name. I only started watching it because of him. It'll come to me.
What's his number?
I can't remember. I can't remember last week, Conrad.
Okay.
I'll remember and I'll let you know. Absolutely. But I like Colin Kaepernick. So let me clear that up first. I am and have been a Steelers fan, but you know, politically, I still struggle with how Colin Kaepernick was done. So it made it hard over the years to actually watch football, knowing that you had a man who still was at the height of his career that wasn't given an opportunity to finish up his career in the sport that he was definitely still physically able to play. So, you know, it makes it hard to watch a game. I'm not out here buying Steelers gear, that's for sure.
Well, you don't have to be that big of a sports fan or a NASCAR driver to have fun. And if you hop on over to 1248 South Military Highway, all the way to Southern Volkswagen, and stop in to say hey to Charlie Roy, you can get yourself the type of car that Virginia Beach wants to tax you $183 for owning. And Elizabeth City Tunnels wants to toll you $5.54 for driving through. You can do that after discussing a new car with Charlie Roy at Southern Volkswagen. And to get off my little advertisement there, Councilwoman Samples, back to you directly. Care to give us a little bit more of your educational background, your community background, and what led you on the path for running for office?
Right. So grew up in East Akron, went to graduated from Central Howard High School after you know, high school wasn't that great for me. I was a teen mom. You know, a lot of people like to relive their high school years. I can't say that I was one of those people. As someone who was a teen mom, a lot of my teachers weren't that kind to me. I did have a few who really sold into me. But, you know, because of one particular teacher who I never named because I don't think she deserves that kind of credit, I think she was really a driving force for me to make sure that I accomplished something with myself, not just for my children, but because we have a woman who was a teacher who truly in her heart must have believed I would never come back to school because I had a baby early. And that stuck with me. And it not to a place where it made me feel as if I was not worthy. It stuck with me to tell me, you are somebody and you will be somebody. And I always kept that in the back of my mind. A teacher who sat in a classroom full of my friends and said she was surprised I even came back to school. She thought I would quit. So that was motivation for me. Always knew I wanted to be in the legislature. Always knew I wanted to make a difference when it came to the law. Worked as a bailiff, went to University of Akron, transferred out, went to the Academy of Court Reporting, and worked at a law firm with attorney Ed Parms, who I always give homage to, because early on I worked at the post office, but I had this desire to work in law, and I just sent my resume out to everyone, and he was the only one who called me back and gave me an opportunity. And I know it was because of that opportunity that attorney Ed Parms gave me, it allowed me to be in the space that I'm in today. Worked on a lot of campaigns early on in my life, and caught that bug, and ended up going to the courthouse as a bailiff for one of the judges. And I worked at the courthouse for 7+ years as a bailiff, and I knew it was time for me to move on from there. After a while, you get tired of signing warrants on people. Even when you see that people are trying, there was just that struggle with constantly seeing people who look like me coming in and out of the court system. And I knew that if I stayed there any longer, you get complacent and comfortable. And I didn't want to get comfortable knowing that there was another space for me to be where I can make a difference. And so I ran for office. Me and a small group of my family members and one of my friends, we knocked on, oh my God, close to 8,000 doors ourselves. No one really supported me except for the Williams family. I was taking on a Democrat establishment incumbent. He wasn't a bad guy. I just had a different vision for the ward that I grew up in than he did. And I ran my first time out the gate and I won. And, I first went in there, sort of kind of did the whole, I'm flipping over the tables and I'm going to make a difference. I'm going to change. And I realized that, a lot of those individuals that had already been given the speech about Tara before I even got there. So I had a hard time. Here goes Mike Williams. I love Mike Williams, served with him on council. He has been a great mentor of mine over the years. He was an early on supporter of me when I ran for council. But, it was a learning experience that first time. And I really honestly wasn't going to run for re-election because it was just it was a hard knock life for me. And I said, I had to think of a different way to do things so I could get the work done that I was sent there to do. So, I started having those conversations with people who the first term wouldn't even talk to me. And once they got to know who I was and they saw that it was really for me about the people, they became a little more relaxed to talk to me about issues that were affecting the community. And I think that's what it took for me to build those bridges in order to get the work done. And that's what I did. And I was able to get a lot of legislation passed because of it. My legislation for live streaming, which I authored, is the reason why Akron City Council live streams to this day. It was not, it wasn't a unanimous vote. It came with opposition. There was people who went kicking and screaming to the transparency that I wanted, what people wanted. But it passed, and I think it has definitely given the community an opportunity to see what we as a government body for the city of Akron do with their taxpayer dollars, which was very important to me.
That's deep. That's deep. That people were fighting the ability to be transparent. When in today's society, we say, hey, we want to know what's happening. We want to know where our resources go to, our hard-earned resources go to. And we also want to know what decisions you're making. And so why do you think that you had such pushback with people becoming more transparent?
Well, I equate it to the Wizard of Oz. Nobody never knew who he was because there was the curtain up. And once the curtain came down, you got to see who was really manipulating and orchestrating things. And I think that's what it was. Now you have to be transparent and you have to be honest. It's one way you could tell the residents one thing, but it's different when they actually can see it in real time for themselves. And I think that's what some of them were afraid of. I mean, it passed, but there were still 4 council members who voted against it. So the vote was 9-4. Keep in mind, Akron City Council is a complete Democratic council. We're all Democrats, at least on paper. And, a lot of those things that were in that legislation, like we're supposed to have a presence on Facebook. we started off like that, but we had a couple council members mad about that. And next thing you know, our presence was gone. So, you know, and if I even go back a couple steps further, the only reason we were able to get the live streaming passed was because I started bringing my iPad to city council with me and started live streaming our meetings from my desk. I was like, okay, so I'm gonna let everybody see what's going on. And so I just put my iPad up and I started live streaming it, and they started having meetings about how to keep me from doing it. And there's a thing called the Constitution that people love to talk about when it is convenient for them. And I said, you know, I have a right to do this. There's nothing written that says that I can't. And eventually they saw I wasn't going to stop. So let's just get this legislation done. And then we don't have to worry about her coming in here with her iPad, you know, turning it in everybody's face every 5 seconds. But, you know, it's unfortunate that I had to be so extreme for them to actually see. It's okay for the residents to know what we're doing down here. It's okay. And
you know what?
That's how it happened.
Well, that kind of reminds me of the great Neely Fuller, who said that, you know, white supremacy plays both sides of the fence. You know, you mentioned earlier that it was a total group of Democrats that, so some people who were more melanated would think that that would be a safe space. I say not. And your experience demonstrated that you got to advocate. We have to press. We have to stay on code. And I want to salute you, sister. You stayed on code on that one. You stayed on code for that one. Yeah.
I mean, so, people want to see people fight for him. That's it.
Well, I want to know more about this. So Nina Turner is interesting. When I first started seeing her stomping for Bernie Sanders, I'm like, huh? Okay. Because I thought she had the ability to do so much more. And he had the insight that was so lacking in my position. But I've gotten a chance to listen to her. And the more that I listen to her, the more I'm saying, you know what? She may have been kind of wrong with Sanders, but she's right about a lot. Tell me about your experience and what you're doing for Nina Turner for Congress. That's a big deal.
Absolutely. And I will have to tell you, I don't think she got it wrong with Sanders, because I was right there on that train too. I don't think it was about the person. It was about his policies. And his policies were people-centered. I mean, from the beginning of time, when, you know, he stood on the side with us when it wasn't popular. I mean, it's still not popular, but back then, you know, he got arrested fighting with us and for us. And he's always been true to that. And I think because of that, it resonated with her, someone who is a professor, a tenured professor of Black history. And knowing that this man carried all those values that she and many others like us hold true to us and near and dear to our hearts, is why, you know, she stepped out and she supported him and advocated for him, one of his strongest advocates. And I think that because of all the local work that she had done and then doing it on a national level has prepared her for this moment. So she's not only been able to be out in, as we call, the vineyard of doing the work for the people, she's been able to take, unfortunately, that pain from the people across this country and say, you know what, something has to be done here. So her running for Congress, it lends a very strong and powerful voice to those who are already there, because it's going to take all of them to get together collectively to get the things done, not just for the people in 11th Congressional District, but across this country. So knowing that she's going to be able to hit the ground running on day one, because she's already battle tested, and that's what we need. We need somebody who's battle tested to walk into that lion's den and get the work done, because you and I know, as we saw over these last forever years, but really the last 4 years under Trumpism, we need somebody who's going to be able to go in there and battle for us and make sure that they're being a voice for the people. And you don't get a stronger voice for the people than Nina Turner.
I salute that. I salute that. So what are you doing for Nina Turner?
So I am the campaign's political director. What I've done on my end of the campaign is the 11th congressional district runs all the way from Cleveland all the way down through Summit County, Akron. Akron, of course, is where I am. So I'm really focused on Summit County, making sure we get the vote out here in Summit County, which includes Akron, Bath, Fairlawn, Richfield, those suburban areas of the district down here. So, making sure that people know that there is an election. We are knocking on doors, getting people registered to vote who aren't registered to vote, getting people to commit early, making sure we have yard sign locations. But the most important thing is making sure that they understand the reason why I am such a strong advocate for Nina Turner, because I know she's going to continue to do the people's work because she's already done that. We want somebody who's going to go in there and fight for Medicare for all. We need somebody who's going to go in there to fight to cancel student loan debt. We need someone who actually understands the reason why we need to get rid of qualified immunity and not feel like they've got to give a little to get a little. And so that's the one thing that we have championed here, is to making sure that people understand the reason why Nina Turner needs to be in the seat. And even to go a step further, when the 11th congressional district map changed and they made Summit County a part of that district, we became almost like the stepchild to everyone. We have 4 congresspeople to represent Summit County. It's the most ridiculous thing ever. But we were so fortunate to be drawn in with Cleveland instead of with that other part. Congressman Tim Ryan is one of those other congresspeople, part of the Akron district, who does a phenomenal job. However, when we talk about the 11th congressional district, this is the first time that an 11th congressional district candidate has even bothered to open up the campaign headquarters in Summit County. That speaks volumes to how they felt about us down here. And I'm just so proud that our campaign sees the benefit to Akron being a voice in this and being part of the process. And so because of that, people have navigated towards our campaign and towards Nina Turner, because they know she is going to be a loud voice in that. She's not just going there to partner with an administration. When they're doing good things, you give them their kudos, but everything can't just be a yes. Yes doesn't mean that you're going there to fight for people. Yes means you're just going there to be a yes person. And we need somebody who's going to go there to fight with us, even if that means that you have to advocate and be against some of the things that the administration is bringing forth.
I want to touch on a little bit more on policing and police reform. For instance, Lakia Bryant over there. We've had our own dealings with law enforcement here in Virginia Beach as well. Donovan Lynch. We're fighting for things at Virginia Beach like creating civilian review boards. We're also wanting to end policies like qualified immunity. Virginia recently passed a ban on no-knock raids last year. What is your vision when it comes to empowering the community regarding policing, and how many different steps do you think it might need to take from municipal up to the state in order to make sure Ohio, Virginia could get better with community and policing?
Right. So I don't know if we got enough time on this call, but I got a whole bunch of things. First, I think we need to start with more training. I think police officers should have some form of degree, whether it's in social work, psychology. I think there needs to be some kind of degree associated with that. I don't think any police officer should be on the street who's spent more time training than a cosmetologist or a barber. That's a problem. And there needs to be continual training. There needs to be background checks and finding out what's in, like we call what's in your heart. I mean, you can check and see they got great credit. They've never been in trouble, but you need to find out what else they have going on. The thing that I think is more painful is when you see these young men and women who want to be police officers and they've never had an interaction with anybody Black and brown ever, or they come from a community where there's no Black and brown people, but then when they become police officers, you stick them in a predominantly African-American community and you expect for them to be successful in that. Not to say all of them won't be successful, but there's going to be some kind of angst to them being there because they've never dealt with Black and brown people. So I think that partnering them with people who actually look like the community, is from the community, is one of the things that we have talked about greatly. And we have a committee together for the city of Akron for council called Reimagining Public Safety. I actually chair public safety, the public safety committee, and culture. So those are the two things that are very, very passionate for me. We have to make sure that that culture is changed, and we got to make sure the personnel part is trained. Like there's a system in place where the psych evaluation comes after the police offer has been made. I think the psych evaluation needs to come before you even make them an offer to be a police officer, because there may be something there psychologically that may be an issue. This should be addressed before you make them an offer to be a police officer, but then it has to be continual. If they have an issue, or even if they don't have an issue, you have to go maybe every 6 months for you to go talk to somebody and they see where your mindset is at. I think it's very important to do that, because you got to first examine what's going on within them personally, what's in their heart, before you go putting them on the streets with people that they may fear or may say they fear in the midst of something. So I think we definitely need to start there. But I also am a fan of them lifting the age requirement. I think that they should lift it. I think if you're older, you may look at things a little differently than someone who's in their 20s. So I would lift the age requirement as well.
What are your thoughts on Akron's current version, or lack thereof, possibly, of civilian review boards of policing?
In the past, I do believe that they did have a review board. It never went anywhere. I think it was just one of those things that you tell people we're going to do it, and then maybe eventually they'll shut up about it. I think it needs to be something that's intentional, but actually allow it to function. It has to be functioning. We have an independent police auditor right now for the city of Akron who investigates issues with the police officers, but he's not being given the tools to be successful. It's great that we put him there, but if he does not have access to the information when there's a problem, we already have a problem with him being there. So, the plan is to make sure that he has access and making sure he has a support staff where he can be successful in his duties as the independent auditor.
I would throw in a little bit of a soapbox here regarding Virginia Beach, because we're in the midst of trying to create one ourselves. And first the battle was like, do we even need a task force to create it? And now that we voted for a task force, how many should be on the task force? Should it be 7? Should it be 11? And then it became, what should the makeup of even the task force be? And it was leading like it would be mostly current or former police officers. And that's sort of reducing the value of what you wanted the civilian review board to be anyway, which is something that checks and balances police. And you can't really have an effective check and balance if they are the ones who are making up the body that was supposed to be looking themselves up, because that was the problem anyway.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that if you're going to put together a review board, that review board should be comprised of community members, community leaders, stakeholders, not retired police officers. No, I don't. Yeah.
I would second that.
Yeah. Yeah, that's definitely a problem.
Another interesting parallel, a little bit off of policing itself, but just on municipal government. For instance, I ran for city council last year, but I ran in a city, Virginia Beach, that at the time, all the districts were exposed to at-large voting. The entire city voted for each of the districts. You represent a ward system, so it's direct. You were knocking on the doors, for instance, so you were only representing people of Ward 5. And so Ward 4 could not vote for you or something along that effects. But here in Virginia Beach, they could at the time. So I had to beat out hundreds of thousands of people who could vote for me or not. So, of course, there's also a difference in Virginia Beach versus Akron in terms of we have a council manager system versus the strong mayor system that Akron has. What is your view of Akron, how it deals with this local politics? Is there things you might suggest going forward, or do you like it as is?
We have wards. I always encourage my friends who live in municipalities who have a system of all at-large members is to really, work on, even if that means there has to be a charter change for there to be ward representatives. Because the one thing with the system in which you described is if you represent the entire city and you don't have people that you're dedicated to, guess what? You're only going to focus on where the money is. You're not going to focus on the interests of the people. So if you actually break that down where, okay, like Cleveland, I think they have 20 ward council people, but it's broken down to, like me, my ward is Ward 5. It covers the entire city of Akron except for West Akron. I have the biggest land-wise ward in the city, and I'm okay with that. But I think at some point it does some parts of my community a disservice because of the way my ward is cut out. I shouldn't have only 6 streets in South Akron, but there's 3 of us who cover South Akron. It makes no sense where a bigger part of my ward is North Akron, parts of downtown and East Akron. Fine. But then you give me a little part of South Akron, and you give Ward 3 a little part of South Akron, and you give Ward 7 a little part of South Akron, and it does them a disservice. That's just my opinion. So I like the way our structure is. I think more municipalities need to have that structure instead of you being be held to the business districts in those communities, because that's what you're unfortunately going to do. You're not going to pay attention to the people who are actually voting. You don't pay attention to where that money is at. And most of the times those companies and those businesses where the money is at, they don't even live there. They're coming in to work and they're leaving, but they don't even live there. So I would absolutely say change that. As far as ours go, I like the way our government structure is set up. I just want us to just be a little more intentional when we talk about transparency. If we're going to say we're going to be a transparent government, I think we really need to be a transparent government.
As we get ready to close out, because I know that you have sort of like when you're in your version of a heart out tonight, I want to finish with a question more toward your greater policies that you like. A society should be judged not so much on how we treat the well-off individuals, but by how we treat the downtrodden individuals. That's a statement I'm paraphrasing here. Your advocacy for the houseless, those who've experienced trauma, those who are addicted to substances, and those afflicted by mental health problems, they're key for public servants, in my opinion. You have contacts in the community and council, in the state house, nationally. So how should all of this come together?
It's centered on the people. So I think that if we all in these spaces and places in the government, regardless of what branch of government that you're in, if you stay focused on the people, everything else will come together. We got to make sure that we're doing right by people. We got to make sure that they have the housing that they deserve, making sure people aren't going hungry, making sure that they have health care coverage, and it not be equated to whether they have a job or not. I think that's a human right. Medicare for all is a human right. These are the things that are very, very important, not just to me, but to people like yourself as well. And I really appreciate the residents in my ward believing enough in me to allow me the opportunity to advocate, not just for them, but for other residents in the city of Akron. And I just say, as long as we continue to fight for people and do what's right by people, then everything else will fall into place. But it's always got to be people centered. You keep it on the people, everything else will go all right.
All right, keep it on people and everything else will go all right. What prepared you for being this stalwart, valiant for justice, equality, and freedom? What prepared you? What prepared you?
Knowing that I'm a mother and a grandmother, I just want to know that when I leave this space, I've prepared it for the next generation and making it better for them. That's the thing that's most importantly. And my dad has always told me I can do anything. My dad has always told me I can do anything, and I keep that with me.
Salute pops for that. Salute pops for that. There are people who are going to be coming after you, and the legacy that you're leaving is going to be a easier pathway for them. But they're going to have some fights that you haven't had the opportunity to win against. What are some of the things you want the next generation to take with you as we close? So what are some of the last things you want to take that you want the next generation to take on?
You know what I want our young people to know is that you matter, your advocacy matters, and this space matters. So I want them to fight. I want them to fight for what they believe in. I want them to stay truthful to who they are. You know, I think a lot of times our young people, they get caught up and worried about what others think about them. Just stay true to you and what you believe in. And if your dream is to be a teacher, be a teacher. If your dream is to be an advocate, be an advocate. If it's to be an artist, be an artist. Hold true to those principles, because that's what matters and that's what counts.
Wow. Well, Sister Tara, it's so good to have you on. You know, this kind of took me back to my place and space in Ohio, you know, planet Columbus. We salute Akron as well. Hey, who is Gigi?
That's me. That's what my grandkids call me, Gigi. They do not call me grandma. This is not a grandma. This is all Gigi.
All right. Well, you know, I'm not one of your grandkids, but I'm going to say salute that, Gigi. Salute that.
Thank you. Thank you guys for having me. I appreciate it.
I'm going to test this out before you go. If you want good government, you need free samples. Or something with samples. Something with samples that can be worked on.
Okay, yeah. I might have to tweak that a little bit and keep it.
There you go.
Yeah.
Go forth.
Yeah. Hey, nothing's free. Nothing's free. Take care.
Have a great evening.
Ooh, free samples in this democracy, in this what's the word I was looking for, man? We talked about it earlier today. It's all good. It's all good. Wow. Yo, I'm really impressed with Sister Samples, Councilwoman Samples.
Mm-hmm.
She fought for the Crown legislation. It looks like, I was just looking, like the city of Akron, they voted on something that she was kind of leading as well. And that was, okay, yeah. Today, May 3rd, City Council discussed a resolution in support of the George Floyd Justice Policing Act. We didn't get a chance to ask her how things turned out. But I was really impressed that it even popped up.
Perhaps we should bring her on again sometime in the future, and we'll go forth with that.
Oh, okay. She actually did give us a little note on that, because that was something that we were going to discuss, and I'm kind of saddened to share this information, but it looks like she has a little more work to do. You know, she says that the George Floyd Justice Policing Act was killed in committee in Akron City Council Public Safety.
And remember, they're all Democrats.
Your party, bro.
I know. I joined the party, and I would like to think I would be the part that would be more toward her side and want to help out. But that also means that not all will be with us.
True that. So last words, brother, last words.
I enjoyed tonight, and I can't wait for another great beach weekend. It is getting warmer, so you guys head on out to the beach. Enjoy some of the great businesses that we have here in Virginia Beach and Hampton Roads.
All right. Hey, speaking of good businesses in Hampton Roads, you know, what's Beachy, man? What's Beachy? Talk about a restaurant that you might want to go to. Maybe we'll go check it out on Friday. What's Beachy?
A good restaurant, it would be near here. Why don't we go out to Montego again? Montego Island Grill.
Montego Island Grill it is. I think we have the right background for that too. All right, so we'll do Montego Island Grill, and let's go to one other spot, man. What's another spot we can go check out, have some mimosas?
Gotta be honest, I don't even remember ever having mimosa in my life.
Well, maybe we can just hang out, in a good park somewhere and just take in all the good air, the fresh air, the beauty of Virginia Beach, the beauty of Virginia, and then
let's hit up a nice spot on Shore Drive. I haven't been to First Landing in a long time. Elementary school was like the last time I went to First Landing, East Shore State Park. So let's hit up that park.
I love First Landing. I used to DJ there quite often. That's a great location. And I would say to everybody in Virginia, if you haven't been to First Landing, the reason it's called First Landing is the Nina, the Pinta, and the Santa Maria. I think those are the three.
Wasn't that the names of Columbus's ships in 1492?
Yeah. They landed in Virginia Beach before they landed in Jamestown.
The only thing I would fact check there was that it was one ship, I thought, and they landed here first in 1607, and then they went up to Jamestown, but it wasn't those ships.
Okay, it wasn't those ships, but they landed here.
I don't know the name. I don't know the name of the one that landed here. We know those names, but that's because they hyped up Columbus. Didn't spend that much time about John Smith and Jamestown and stuff like that.
Hey, do your Virginia Beach history. Do your Virginia history. 2 up and 2 down for VA. Oh, peace out to Brooklyn. OHIO. And we love you. You guys have a great night. Peace and prosperity. Oh, I forgot to hit the button. This show was brought to you by Positive Vibes Incorporated, our consulting services. We do credit fixes. We do tax resolution. We lend private money and debt consolidation. So if you need some of these services, we're waiting here for you. Credit fixes, tax resolutions, private money, and debt consolidation. Make sure you call Positive Vibes Incorporated.
It's never too early or too late to plan for retirement. Let me show you how to protect yourself, your loved ones, and your assets from loss due to catastrophic decisions that may affect you the rest of your life. Please call me